When the first alien observers looked upon Earth, they didn't see beauty, they saw madness. They had been watching us for centuries. From the outer edges of our solar system, hidden in the shadow of Neptune's cold blue sphere, a vessel drifted silently, the Eclipsera. Inside, the Chiron Collective recorded every move of a species that called itself humanity. To them we were a paradox. Intelligent, yet self-destructive, capable of love, yet endlessly drawn to conflict. They had seen civilizations rise and fall across galaxies, but none as chaotic, as emotional, as unpredictable as ours. Through layers of atmosphere and cloud, their lenses captured cities sprawling like metallic jungles, rivers turned black from industry, skies scarred by smoke. They whispered among themselves, "They are consuming their own home. No world can survive such creatures. They will vanish within a century." Every few decades, the aliens would revisit the planet's data, and every time, they expected to find silence, the kind of silence that follows extinction. Yet Earth was never silent. Even after great wars, they saw cities rise again. After pandemics, they saw art return. After fire and flood, they saw green creeping back through the cracks of stone. The planet, impossibly healed. And the humans, unbelievably rebuilt. This puzzled the Chiron more than anything. On their homeworld of auraless destruction was final. Once a city fell, it stayed fallen. Once a forest burned, it was replaced by steel. They had mastered perfection, stability, and control, but at the cost of resilience. Humanity, they began to realize, didn't survive in spite of chaos. They survived because of it. One observer, Ly'Ren, became obsessed with Earth. She studied every war, every disaster, every rebirth. She watched the bombings of the 20th century and the rebuilding that followed. She watched the oceans rise and the engineers who fought them back. She listened to the songs written in grief and the laughter that came after loss. Her reports were considered heretical among the Chiron. "You claim the humans learn from destruction?" asked the council elder. "No," Ly'Ren answered softly. "I claim they become from it." She proposed something radical: to visit Earth, not as observers, but as students. Her peers protested. The humans were reckless, dangerous, untamed. They would corrupt the Chiron mind with emotion and chaos. But Ly'Ren had already seen too much. She had watched a child plant a tree in the ashes of her burned village. She had watched strangers share bread after losing everything. She had seen a species that, for all its flaws, carried something sacred, something even the advanced civilizations of the galaxy had long forgotten: hope. And so, one night, as Earth rotated into the morning sun, the Eclipsera began its descent. For the first time in recorded Chiron history, the Watchers would meet the watched. The Eclipsera entered Earth's atmosphere like a falling star. To the human eye, it was just another streak of light across the dawn, a meteor burning in silence. But inside, Ly'Ren's heart raced as the ship trembled. She had spent decades studying this world, but now she would breathe its air, feel its gravity, and walk upon its broken soil. They chose a landing site far from human cities, a stretch of wilderness in what was once northern Canada. The forests there had regrown after centuries of deforestation, blanketing the scars left by machines and men. It was, in Ly'Ren's eyes, a perfect symbol of Earth's defiant recovery. When the ship settled among the trees, the crew hesitated. "Contamination risk," warned Terith, her second-in-command. Ly'Ren only smiled. "This world has survived far worse than us." They stepped out. The air was thick, rich with moisture and the scent of pine. For the first time in her life, Ly'Ren felt something her people had almost forgotten: the pulse of a living planet. Then came the voices. From beyond the tree line, faint laughter drifted through the mist. Ly'Ren signaled for silence. Through her visor she saw them, two humans, perhaps in their 30s, carrying tools and planting saplings. Their clothes were rugged, faces streaked with dirt, but their movements were filled with purpose. The aliens hid, observing. The woman knelt in the soil, pressing a young tree into the earth. "It's not much," she said, "but if we keep planting, maybe it'll mean something someday." The man nodded. "We can't fix the world all at once, just our corner of it." Ly'Ren felt something shift inside her, a warmth she couldn't name. These weren't scientists or leaders, just ordinary people rebuilding a small piece of life. Yet in their small act, she saw the essence of what humanity truly was: creators born from ruin. She broke protocol. Stepping out from the shadows, she deactivated her cloaking field. Light rippled off her skin like liquid glass, her form tall and slender, eyes glowing faint blue. The humans froze. The woman dropped her spade. The man reached for a radio that wasn't there. Ly'Ren raised her hand, not in threat, but in greeting. "Do not fear," she said, her voice gentle, filtered through the translator's hum. "I come to learn." There was silence. Then the man whispered, "You're not from here, are you?" "No," she replied. "But perhaps I should have been." To her surprise, they didn't run. Instead, curiosity overcame fear. The woman took a hesitant step forward. "Learn what?" she asked. Ly'Ren looked down at the sapling in her hand, its fragile roots trembling in the wind. "How you keep doing this," she said softly. "How you keep growing after every fall." The humans exchanged glances, then, slowly, the woman smiled. "Then you came to the right place, and in that quiet forest, among the scars of an old world reborn, the first conversation between two species began, not with conquest or science, but with a shared act of planting hope." Ly'Ren spent the following weeks among the humans. The two who had first met her were named Eli and Mara, volunteers for a global restoration project that sought to heal the land scarred by centuries of industrial collapse. Their settlement, a small cluster of solar huts beside a river, was built entirely by hand. They had no armies, no governments here, only people trying to rebuild piece by piece. To Ly'Ren, this was astonishing. The Chiron had once been builders too, but their cities had long stopped changing. Frozen in perfection, they needed no growth, no recovery, and no hope. Humanity, on the other hand, seemed to thrive on imperfection. Every broken thing became a challenge, every failure a seed. Eli showed her how they used compost to enrich the soil, how they filtered water with sand and charcoal, how they reused old satellite parts for energy storage. Mara explained how communities around the world were replanting forests and restoring coral reefs, not because anyone ordered them to, but because they wanted to. Ly'Ren recorded every word. Her reports to the Eclipsera were met with disbelief. "They're still destroying as much as they rebuild," Tarith reminded her through the comlink. "Yes," Ly'Ren replied, "but it's the rebuilding that defines them." She watched children play beside a river that had once been toxic, laughing as they splashed each other. The laughter echoed in her chest like a melody she didn't know she missed. One evening, as the sun bled gold through the trees, Mara asked, "Your people, don't they have music?" Ly'Ren hesitated. "We had it once, before logic replaced feeling." Mara handed her a small device, a solar speaker. Soft acoustic music began to play, simple chords rising into the dusk. Ly'Ren froze. The notes weren't mathematical or precise. They were alive, imperfect, yet beautiful. It was the sound of something enduring, something that refused to die even when the world tried to end it. That night, Ly'Ren couldn't sleep. She stood outside, staring at the stars. Her people had believed Earth was dying, that humanity was a virus consuming its own host. But what if they were wrong? What if destruction wasn't the end, but part of a greater rhythm, a heartbeat between chaos and renewal? She sent a transmission back to the Chiron Council. "Earth is not a dying world. It is a living wound that heals itself. And the humans, they are its immune system." The council dismissed her as sentimental. "Emotion has infected your judgment," they said. But Ly'Ren knew better. She had seen children plant hope in the dirt. She had felt the music of resilience. The Chiron had spent millennia avoiding failure. The humans, she realized, had mastered it, because every time they broke, they learned how to put themselves back together, stronger, stranger, and somehow more beautiful than before. The transmission Ly'Ren sent rippled through the Chiron collective like a shockwave. Her words, poetic, emotional, and dangerously human, were viewed as a breach of scientific integrity. To the Council of Aurelius, emotion was disease, and hope was a contagion. They summoned her to return at once. "You are losing objectivity," said Elder Vale across the holographic link, his translucent features hard with disdain. "You mistake chaos for strength. You see beauty where there is ruin." Ly'Ren met his gaze calmly. "And yet they rebuild. Doesn't that make it strength?" The line went silent. Then came the sentence she feared most. "You are forbidden to interfere further with the human species. If you do, you will be exiled." She ended the transmission, but the silence of space was soon broken by a new sound, thunder. The skies above the settlement grew dark, unnatural. The humans rushed outside, pointing toward the horizon. A storm was forming, not ordinary weather, but something vast and wrong. Mara's radio crackled with panic. "The eastern coastal reactors are overheating. Chain reaction, massive energy surge." Ly'Ren's neural interface translated the data in seconds. The reactors were part of a massive oceanic energy network built to stabilize climate systems, but a software failure was sending it into meltdown. If it continued, it would trigger a planetary storm capable of destroying entire regions. The Chiron Council immediately ordered her ship to withdraw. Do not intervene, observe only. Their extinction will be proof of your error. But Ly'Ren looked at Eli and Mara, humans who had shown her kindness without fear, who planted trees even when the world burned around them. She couldn't stand aside. We can stop it, she told them. Eli frowned. We, you mean, you and us? Yes, together. Her ship's AI protested as she reactivated the Eclipsera systems. Interference violates Council Command 47. Then let it, she replied. Let me be the first to disobey in the name of life. They launched toward the coast. Below them, lightning tore through the sky like veins of fire. The sea churned with violent energy as the reactors overloaded. Entire towers of light rose from the waves, twisting like pillars of destruction. The Chiron sensors warned of lethal radiation, but the humans on the ground didn't run. Teams of engineers stayed to stabilize the core manually, even knowing it would kill them. Ly'Ren's voice trembled as she watched. Why do they stay? Mara answered softly, tears in her eyes. Because if they don't, no one else will. That was the moment Ly'Ren understood humanity completely, their madness, their courage, their refusal to surrender even to death. She piloted the ship directly into the reactor's storm, her body shielded only by will and conviction. If the Chiron had lost their souls to logic, perhaps she could find hers again among the humans who refused to let their world die. The world was ending again. The ocean roared like an angry god as the reactors along the eastern coast flared one by one, each a dying sun at the edge of the horizon. The wind screamed through the metal skeletons of cities, bending towers like blades of grass. Inside the Eclipsera, alarms blared in every frequency. The Chiron crew begged Ly'Ren to abort, but she ignored them. She had already chosen her side. Target the unstable core, she ordered. Stabilization impossible, replied the AI, containment field failing. Then use me. She stepped into the ship's neural control pod. The translucent cables snaked around her body, linking her mind directly to the ship. Her consciousness expanded. She became the vessel, feeling its pain as the energy surge clawed through its systems. Down below, Eli and Mara were coordinating evacuation. Their voices came through the cum like distant echoes through a storm. We're losing power. Keep it steady, she's still in there. Ly'Ren's vision blurred. She could feel the reactor's pulse, wild, erratic, alive in its fury. It reminded her of a human heartbeat. For a moment she almost smiled. She reached deeper into the reactor network, using her ship's core to absorb and redirect the excess energy into space. The pain was unbearable. Her body convulsed, her neural circuits burning from overload. The Eclipsera screamed as its structure began to collapse. Ly'Ren, Mara's voice broke through the static. You'll die if you stay linked. Ly'Ren's voice came faint but calm. If death means saving what deserves to live, then it's only another kind of beginning. The last surge hit, blinding light engulfed the coast. The Eclipsera exploded into fragments of glass and light, scattering like stars across the storm, and then silence. The winds slowed, the seas calmed, the energy spike faded. Humanity, once again, had been spared from extinction this time, not by luck or technology, but by the courage of a being who had learned what it meant to be human. When the sun rose the next morning, Eli and Mara stood on the shore, staring at the calm sea. In the sand lay a single shard of the alien ship, still glowing faintly with blue light. Eli picked it up. Within the shard, a holographic recording flickered Ly'Ren's final message. If my people ever return, tell them this. Earth is not a world to be studied from afar. It is a teacher. It breaks, it bleeds, but it never stops trying. And neither should we. Mara wept. The shard pulsed once, as if in farewell, then faded. Above them, the sky cleared. For the first time in decades, the stars shone through the thinning clouds. Humanity had survived another night, and somewhere, perhaps in the echoes between galaxies, the Chiron listened and began to question everything they believed. Years passed. The world healed once more. The oceans cooled. The forests spread their green fingers across the scars of the old world. Humanity scarred, humbled, and changed, learned to build not just for survival, but for balance. The story of the storm became legend, whispered as the day the sky bled light. Few knew the truth that it was not a human savior, but an alien who gave her life for Earth. Only Eli and Mara kept the secret, guarding the shard of blue crystal that once pulsed with Ly'Ren's final words. They founded the Ly'Ren Institute, dedicated to planetary restoration and the study of life's resilience. Its symbol was a seed enclosed within a circle of stars. Over generations, the Institute's mission spread across continents. To rebuild is to remember. Meanwhile, far beyond the solar system, On the crystalline spires of Aurelis, a silent rebellion was growing. Ly'Ren's transmissions banned and erased by the Council had survived in fragments, shared quietly among the younger Chiron scientists. They replayed her words in secret chambers. Earth is not a dying world. It is a living wound that heals itself. The humans are not destroyers, they are the proof that life can endure even its own mistakes. At first, these words were considered madness, but over time they became prophecy. When the Chiron's own world began to fail its perfect systems, collapsing under centuries of stagnation, many began to ask a forbidden question: what would the humans do? And so, in quiet defiance, a new generation of Chiron ships left Aurelis, not as observers or conquerors, but as pilgrims. Their destination, the small blue world their ancestors had judged and misunderstood. They arrived to find Earth not in ruins, but thriving. Towering eco-cities shimmered alongside rivers reborn, and great green belts stretched where deserts once burned. Humanity had not only rebuilt it, had transformed. The first of the returning Chiron stood on the same shore where Ly'Ren had fallen. Eli and Mara were long gone, but their descendants were there to greet them. In their hands, the same glowing shard pulsed once more, awakening after decades of silence. A voice faint but clear emerged from it. If you are hearing this, it means Earth still breathes. Then my purpose is fulfilled. The Chiron bowed their heads. For the first time in millennia, they wept. In that moment, two civilizations, one born from logic, one born from chaos, stood side by side beneath the same rising sun. And for the first time, the Chiron understood the lesson Ly'Ren had died for, that life's greatest strength was not perfection, but persistence. That creation and destruction were not enemies, but partners in an endless dance. That even from ashes, something beautiful could grow. And as dawn spread across the horizon, Earth turned alive, imperfect, eternal, while the stars above shimmered like tears of light for a fallen watcher who had finally taught them how to live.